Asian Canadians have helped build and contribute to our cultural mosaic. Our history is integrated and will not be forgotten. To appreciate our culture and to look forward to our future, we must first look at our past in celebrating Asian Heritage Month. In 1788, the first Chinese settlers arrived in Canada. We helped build a strong trading post on Vancouver Island. We built forts, ships, and mined for gold in British Columbia. Asians have been here since before July 1st, 1867, when the Dominion of Canada was established. It's important to us that we are not viewed as outsiders, but builders to what Canada is and represents today. Between 1881 and 1884, over 17,000 Chinese immigrants came to Canada to build the Canadian Pacific Railway. The railway's importance is still significant today, as it provides a means of transportation of cargo across the country and helped to unite our nation from coast to coast. Once the railway was completed, the Canadian government forced a head tax on the Chinese. The Chinese were the only ethnic group required to pay a tax to enter Canada. By 1903, the head tax was increased from $50 to $500. That's approximately $15,000 today in today's dollars, which significantly hindered Chinese settlers from succeeding in Canada. Then came the Chinese Restriction Act of 1885, which stopped the entry of Chinese immigrants. The first Sikhs came to Canada at the turn of the 20th century. The Vancouver Khalsa Diwan Society was created in 1907, and through its leadership, Sikhs built their first permanent temple the following year. In 1907, at Canada's insistence, Japan limited the migration of males to Canada to 400 per year. During the same year, Canada also banned immigration from India and South Asian countries. It would not be until the late 1940s that these policies would change. Several hundred people rioted through Vancouver's Asian district to protest Asian immigration to Canada. In 1914, 376 people from India aboard the immigration ship Komagata Maru entered Canada at Vancouver Harbour. During the First World War, 222 Japanese Canadians served on the front lines. 54 of them were killed. 13 of them received the Military Medal of Bravery, but it wasn't until 1931 that the federal government granted the Japanese Canadian veterans of the First World War the right to vote. Following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, 38 Japanese Canadians were arrested as subversives. The federal government used the War Measures Act to order the removal of about 20,000 Japanese Canadians in BC, 75% of whom were Canadian citizens. More than 8,000 Japanese Canadians moved to a temporary detention camp where women and children were held in a livestock building at the Pacific National Exhibition Grounds in Vancouver. The government sold all Japanese Canadian-owned property, homes, farms, fishing boats, businesses, and personal property, and deducted from the proceeds any social assistance received by the owner while confined and unemployed in a detention camp. Shortly after World War II ended, the government deported 4,000 Japanese Canadians, more than half of whom were Canadian citizens, out of racially charged fears from the war. The Citizenship Act of 1947 extended Chinese and South Asian Canadians the right to vote. However, ignored the Indigenous people and the Japanese Canadians. 2 years later, Japanese Canadians received their freedom. Unfortunately, the Japanese Canadians struggled to rebuild their lives. In 1969, Canada reformed its immigration laws and South Korean immigration began to grow, as well as the second wave of Japanese immigration. Many Japanese immigrants who came to Canada during this period worked in the service or skilled trades sector, helping to shape Canada's infrastructure and culture. While we can't change how we were treated in the past, we can change how we're represented in the Canadian mosaic today and in the generations to come. In 1972, Canada responded to a crisis. The government selected 6,000 refugees from the expulsion of Asians in Uganda. During the fall of Saigon in 1975, many refugees risked their lives to escape the turbulent political context, human rights violations, and rapidly deteriorating living conditions in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. By 1985, Canada had admitted more than 98,000 refugees from these countries. Canada established a new Immigration Act for refugees in 1978. Shortly after, Canada led the Western world in welcoming Southeast Asian refugees, particularly those from Vietnam. Canada changed its immigration policy in 1985 to expand the list of business immigrants to include investors, entrepreneurs, and those who are self-employed. This led to an increased immigration from Hong Kong. The Mulroney government initiated a reform of the refugee system in 1988. United Nations grants the people of Canada the Nansen Refugee Award in recognition of their essential and constant contribution to the cause of refugees within their country and around the world. Between 1979 and 1981, Canada had accepted more than 60,000 refugees from Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. It was the first and only time the award was presented to an entire nation. In 1988, Prime Minister Brian Mulroney acknowledged the wartime wrongs committed against Japanese Canadians and announced compensation for each individual who had been expelled from the coast. In 2006, under much community pressure, Prime Minister Stephen Harper offered an apology to the Chinese community for the implementation of the head tax from 1885. An official directive made in Parliament ordered compensation for the head tax of approximately $20,000 to be paid to survivors or their spouses. Asian Canadians are a significant part of Canada's history. It's amazing to see how far we've come in our culture, in our community, and in our country. Let us introduce you to some of the faces in the Asian Canadian community today in celebration of Asian Heritage Month.
Michael Ondaachi, Sri Lankan-born, highly acclaimed author, emigrated to Canada in 1962. He is the writer of The English Patient and was inducted into the Order of Canada. In 1981, Conrado Santos became the first Filipino to be elected to office when he was elected to the Manitoba Assembly for the New Democratic Party. Vivian Poy became the first Canadian of Asian descent to be appointed to the Senate. Born in Hong Kong, Poy was a historian, entrepreneur, and fashion designer. During her time in the Senate, Poy sponsored the famous Five Monument in Calgary and was instrumental in the designation of May as Asian Heritage Month. Adrienne Clarkson was sworn in as a Governor General in 1999. Prime Minister Jean Chrétien appointed Clarkson, making several firsts in the selection of Canada's Governor General. She was the first without a military background and was the first non-white Canadian to be appointed to the vice-regal position. Bev Oda became the first Japanese Canadian Member of Parliament when she was elected as the representative for Durham, Ontario. Norman Quam succeeded Lois Hull as Alberta's 16th Lieutenant Governor, the first Chinese Canadian to hold the position in Alberta. Geneticist and broadcaster David Suzuki were promoted to Companion of the Order of Canada. He was named an Officer of the Order in 1977. Suzuki has won multiple awards for his work in both science and broadcasting, where he has raised public awareness on important environmental issues. David C. Chai Lam was the first person of Asian ancestry to hold a vice-regal post in Canada. He was the 25th Lieutenant Governor of BC, a successful banker, and a philanthropist. He made significant contributions to community and education institutions in British Columbia. Patty Pond is the CEO of Calgary Arts Development and the first Asian Canadian female elected member of the Calgary Stampede Board. Mayor Naheed Nenshi as the first Asian Canadian mayor in a large urban Canadian city. We have woven ourselves into the rich multicultural tapestry that is Canada. Now, we would like to share with you a glimpse of our culture.
As Asian communities continue to flourish in Calgary, we would like to highlight the following and thank them for laying the foundations for others to follow. Scene Lock Community Calgary. Incorporated in 1969, Scene Lock was established in response to a threat to Calgary's Chinatown. Without the Scene Lock community, Calgary wouldn't have had a Chinatown. One of their notable achievements is the Lions on Center Street Bridge. They also created the Chinatown Walking Tour app and an annual Chinese New Year gala. Indonesian Community Calgary, registered in 1983. The goal of the Canadian Indonesian Social Club is to help Calgarians understand more about the Indonesian culture. It is a friendly, fun place to enjoy multicultural activities. The Filipino Community Calgary and the Philippine Cultural Center Foundation. Health and wellness, among other things, are the main driving force for what the Filipino Calgary community is involved in today. They provide programs that include cultural education, performing arts, and health and wellness programs. Calgary Korean Women's Association. Their goal is to provide women in the community with opportunities, positive exposure, and mentorship to develop them into socially conscious global leaders. Calgary Japanese Community Association. The Calgary Japanese Community Association organizes activities, including traditional dancing, karate, taiko kai, and calligraphy. The Malaysian, Singaporean, and Bruneian Community Calgary. The goal of MSBCA is to promote and afford an opportunity for social and recreational activities among members and assist in the settlement of new residents from the home countries of Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei. The organization at large provides a resource center for use by the members and any interested parties. Pangasinan Society Calgary. The Pangasinan Society was formed in 1988 amidst the sprouting different ethnic, regional, and professional and social Filipino clubs at the time. Taiwanese Community Calgary. The Calgary Taiwanese Canadian Association is a non-profit ethno-cultural group established in 1967 and registered in Alberta in 1998. Their mission is to preserve the cultural heritage of Taiwan and promote cultural and intellectual exchange. Thai Cultural Council of Calgary. Thai Cultural Council of Calgary helps spread cultural awareness. There is also the Alberta Thai Association, which was established in 1985, which has been serving the community in areas of cultural, educational, recreational, and social activities in the Edmonton area. Vietnamese Community Calgary. The Calgary Vietnamese Youth Association, CVYA, is a not-for-profit youth empowerment initiative that provides after-school and weekend programs to support Vietnamese youth. The Calgary Vietnamese Women's Association is an organization connecting Vietnamese women in Calgary. They are committed to promoting volunteer programs and supporting and developing the potential of Vietnamese women. Budaya Nusantara. Budaya Nusantara's mission is to preserve the Indonesian heritage and culture of the members and community, fun, friendship, honesty, integrity, and helping others are their core values. Migrante Alberta. Migrante is a non-profit advocacy and self-help organization. They address immediate issues facing migrants and compatriots. They bring public attention to the plight of migrants and precarious workers through different avenues with the aim of getting broad public support and pro-migrant public awareness that has a vision for change. Aside from all the local organizations and their members, there are many more Asian Canadian trailblazers in the present day. All of these communities and individuals have contributed to Canada's rich and multicultural tapestry.
Hi, Calgary.
Hi, I'm Michiko with Strawberry Boots.
Hi, I'm Dennis DeJesus.
My name is Wen. I'm the founder and executive director here at Synaptic.
Hi, Calgary. My name is Maria, and I'm a registered nurse.
I'm a family physician here in Calgary.
I'm an emergency room doctor, and it's my job to take care of other Canadians.
I'm a pharmacist from Global Drugs.
I'm Dr. Robert Wong, and I'm doing my part to keep Canada strong.
I'm an Asian Canadian and also an engineer in the energy sector. I'm doing my part to contribute to the sustainable future of Canada.
I'm founder and architectural designer of a civil consultant.
We are a charitable organization committed to providing innovative neurorehabilitation here in Canada.
It's my job to put my neck on the line to protect Canadians against COVID-19.
I am doing my part to keep Canada strong
by looking after the health of Canadians.
And I'm doing my part
by contributing to Canada.
Together, we're on our way to immunity.